All right, all right, all right. Hey there, Greenwood. It's Melissa. I've had several folks request to have maybe some kind of a tutorial about using FLUBAROO. So I thought I would create this hangout on air so that we had a recording of this so folks could watch how this works at a later date. So here we go. I'm going to actually do two different scenarios. I'm going to use the old version of forms, which some of you are still using, and I'm going to also do the new version of forms, because really that's the only difference there, is the version of forms. The activity in FLUBAROO really hasn't changed because that's a function of the sheet that gets created by the Google Forms. So I just want you to know that there is just a minor difference in the version of the forms that you use. The FLUBAROO part's still going to be the same. So starting out here, and I've just got a really quick, simple form, and this is in the old format. Notice I have the prompt to try the new Google Forms. But what I did was I created a simple form with the settings. I always require the GWS login to view the form because we want to keep this in-house and not having it outside of our environment. And then I also like to automatically collect respondents Greenwood, the GW or the Greenwood Schools username. It just helps you know who responded, instead of just knowing that it was somebody from Greenwood. So that just, I like to see that personally. I created 3 simple questions. In the form, you give it a name. If you want to enter a description, you can. It's not necessary. In my first question, I typed out, I made it a multiple choice question. What was the first state capital of Indiana? If I wanted to edit this question, just for a quick forms tutorial, here's what the question looks like when it's in edit mode. So I created the title. This is just help and supportive text. I can make my question type choices from the pull down list. So I do have some other options here. I just like multiple choice because it's easy. And I'm not even going into complex features of forms here. But I typed in my 4 choices. I made it a required question. And this was just here. I just checked the box so that folks have to answer that question. So I created a multiple choice for the first question. The second one is a text fill in. So if you're doing something like fill in the blank, or I used this with dates because it was just a year. I didn't ask specifically a calendar date. This could also be used for numeric responses to enter in text. And then my third question, again, just a simple, straightforward multiple choice question. And then when I send the form, there's a couple of options for sending the forms in that you can email it to people as an attachment. What I generally do is get the link and then I just copy it and paste it into an email to everyone so that we know what to click on to get to it. So there's a couple of options for sharing it. If you want to preview the form, there is an option up here. And again, this is in the old version. If we view the live form, and I like to preview this because, and in this one I set a theme. I'll go back and show you how that works. But what I like about doing the preview is that this allows me to go through right from the get-go before kids start answering. I get to go through and choose the correct answer. So I'm creating my own, I'm doing my own entries. And then when we see where these responses are captured in the Google Sheet, which is like an Excel spreadsheet, I'll know that my entry here was the one that is the answer key. So let me just go ahead and quickly do this. The first state capital, what year? 1816. And we're going to go with Mr. Evan here, and I'm going to submit. So my response has been recorded, and where that's going to show up is here, that form created a responses sheet. So this is the green sheet, and it shows me the responses here. So from the add-ons, this is where the FLUBAROO part comes in. I go to FLUBAROO. I enable FLUBAROO for this sheet. Now, if you don't have FLUBAROO as one of your add-ons listed, go down to Get Add-ons, do a search, although I would almost wager that every time the add-ons that FLUBAROO will be very evident and easy to find. But if in the event that it is not, because I think it is one of the most popular sheets add-ons that's out there, everybody loves this. So if you don't see it, you can do a search here, or you'll be able to, it'll say free, and you just click on free and you'll install it. So it's an add-on, meaning it lives inside of the Google Sheets. It's not like an app or an extension or anything like that. It's just an add-on to the particular Google tool that you're using. Okay. So now once you have added FLUBAROO, it'll display in the add-ons menu. I'm going to go to FLUBAROO. I'm going to enable FLUBAROO for this sheet. Okay, so I get the notification, FLUBAROO has been enabled. You may now access it from the menu. Groovy. Okay, so when I come back to here, this is my form. I wanted to go back to this form because I just show you that I changed the theme by going here. This is where you can make it look at least a little more interesting than just wah straight text. So that's where that comes from, is from the change of the theme. So as you'll have students respond, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fake some responses here, and we'll view the live form, and I'm just going to keep submitting different answers. So let's say Terre Haute and 1812 and Evan By. Submit. Okay, I'm going to submit another response. We're going to go with Vincennes this time, 1816, and we're going to go with Bob Orr. This is just to demonstrate or replicate the actual response gathering process here. Now, since I'm logged in and I've submitted all of the responses, yes, my username is going to come up in the list here. So what I'm going to do to kind of fudge the results here is I'm just going to modify that this is somebody else. So I may say, this is just so it thinks it's other people. When you have kids that are responding to these forms, you're going to actually have those, their real usernames captured. Okay, so let's have Tammy in the mix here, and let's do someone else. Okay. So this way, then I can discern between who the users are that have submitted these. And okay, so now when I do the add-on, and I'll say FLUBAROO. So we've enabled FLUBAROO. Now I have responses here, and you have to have more than one response. You need that second somebody to respond before you can actually start grading this. So I just go to FLUBAROO, grade assignment. So while this is loading, this is just giving me some options that the username identifies the student and there's no points. This is where I can weigh different point values for different questions. If some of them are more complex and you want to get, weigh them against other simpler questions, you can do so. I leave all of these at the default for normal grading because I really don't necessarily have any necessity to change anything. But you may do skip grading, excuse me, skip grading in the event that there is a question that maybe requires some kind of a performance element to it, that maybe you factor in on a different rubric. So if the student demonstrates that they can rub their head and or pat their head and rub their belly at the same time, that might be one that you skip. Grade by hand. This is a new feature in FLUBAROO, and this may be for something that you, where there isn't a question type in forms that supports the question you're asking, you may choose to grade a question or section of questions by hand. So there's options there. I leave these, almost all of them, at normal grading. We'll continue. Then step 2. So this is going to say which submission should be used as the answer key. This usually is the one that's created by you. So I'm going to look for the one with the username of me. I'm going to select that and I'm going to say continue. And it's grading my assignment. Dun, da, 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 the grading is complete. A new worksheet, actually it's a tab. So if it's instead of an Excel spreadsheet that's a single, this is the kind that we can have multiple tabs like an Excel workbook. So a new sheet has been created with grades, and that's going to be the grading. So you're still going to be able to collect the responses and the grades. They also will prompt you with some helpful tips too about FLUBAROO and using FLUBAROO. So you'll see down here at the bottom, I have a new tab for grades, and I had a tab for, so here are the student submissions. And as these continue to go and collect the responses, these will keep accumulating here. Then in the grades, this is going to show me who's done well so far, the grades that have been collected to date that I have graded. And so I can see here. So let's say I get another one, I get more choices or more responses, examples, students that that had missed class or whatever and are making it up later. You can always go in and go to add-ons, go to FLUBAROO and regrade the assignment. If you've manually adjusted a student's grade, for example, I knew that actually Tammy here, she came up to me and she said, I miskeyed my entry and was able to demonstrate to me that she knew it was 1816. Well, now I can come in here and regrade the assignment. And you say yes. And it'll step us back through that process one more time. So still, and this allows you to make adjustments along the way if there was anything that you needed to change. So now we'll go again with, this is the answer key. It's grading my assignment. And there we go. Ta-da. Okay, so it's finished grading. It's updated Tammy's score. And so there you go. So I think this is super helpful in terms of, this is where we actually define the correct answer. In older versions of Google Forms, you actually could determine which was the correct answer within the form. But now that is just left to the actual grading, and correct answer component is really in the FLUBAROO piece within the sheet that's created. Okay, now really quickly, I just want to show here then, here's an example of a new form. This is one that I'm using for, where did it go? Oh, here we go. It's the learner choice sessions for the year of Google. Here, this looks a lot different, and it's not just because my theme is different. They've really reorganized how a lot of this looks, and it starts out with, you know, this just kind of hits you in the face. I came in and actually, let me just do this. Let me go back. I'll create a new one from scratch just so you can see what this looks like. So they just hit you up front and center with, here's the untitled form, and here are your questions. Then you have the option to set up how you want the responses to come back to you. So let me just call this test form. Oops. I want to do an extra description here. Can't even spell description. Okay. So our untitled question, by default, they say it's going to be multiple choice, but again, I have my pull down list here. I can change it to some other options here. Keep in mind that date and time are going to be specific. So you may not want to use that for, Columbus sailed the ocean blue in, October 12th, fill in the blank, instead of, because I don't know if that calendar is going to go back to 1492, to be perfectly honest with you. But so here that I could create my question. Option 1. Okay. It's required in the old forms. That was a checkbox. In this, it's the toggle. I can say toggle on, toggle off. So this isn't going to be required until I enable it and it turns the color. Okay. If I want to add another question, I can duplicate the question and modify if I know I'm going to be doing 3-part multiple choice, or let's just go here and I'm going to just change this to short answer, converts it. So that's how you add on the questions. I don't know that this is that much different, but it's just they've kind of stashed stuff in different places. Okay, here, if I wanted to just add a new fresh question instead of the duplicated one, it's over here now. Add the title and description. You keep going through that. These you can actually add images or embed video or create the different section breaks with this. So if you had certain questions that pertain to one topic, you could keep them separate in sections. Here is if you want to change the color palette. So this is kind of like the equivalent of your themes. So if I wanted to make this a fuchsia, or if I wanted to add images, here's where a lot of those themes resurface, and it takes a minute to, for all of these to populate. But if you wanted to do something about Father's Day, sports, you could do, we've got, actually they've added a lot of different theme options in here. So this is great. You can upload your own if you want to build your own theme. So that's pretty groovy. I dig that. To preview it, this is the same as the preview. So you could fill out your own form and submit your own, submit your own answer key the first time through. But this is a little bit different in the responses. So the questions will display first, responses, 0 responses. So this is, it says it's accepting responses because the toggle is switched over to the right, waiting for responses. They could display here, or I can force them to create a spreadsheet. The only way FLUBAROO is going to work is if I force it to create the spreadsheet. So you want to make sure that you create a spreadsheet, and then you can have it do a new one. And I like to do that just because then the names match. So it's always the form and then the responses, they have the same name and they always will display next to each other. Or if you have a particular spreadsheet that you're already dumping data into, you can select an existing one. But this is probably my recommendation just for keeping things visually organized in your in Google Drive. So then once this spreadsheet is created and you're capturing the responses there, then that's when you go back in and then you apply FLUBAROO to that sheet, and then you can do the grading. And it's as simple as that.